After her Aunt Elizabeth adopted her, she passionately pursued Edward, England's future king. Edward fell hard, and they married. The new bride had no need of a child, so she sent Denise to Yorkshire, far out of the way. The childless Duke and Duchess of Scarborough raised her as the daughter they never had. When the Duchess died, the Duke sent Denise back to court, unwanted again. Despite having a king and queen for an uncle and aunt, Denise languished, a lost soul. Today, as reunited lovers surrounded her, she stood alone, unwanted. To add to her misery, the knight of her dreams appeared, only to vanish. Such was her life as an outsider. Her lady-in-waiting entered, curtsied, and held out a folded parchment embossed with the royal seal. "A page delivered this from Her Highness the Queen, my lady." She dismissed the maid. It can wait. Probably a summons to one of the Queen's silly musicales, an excuse for court ladies to gossip. She put the message out of her mind till that eve, as her tiring woman stood behind her brushing her hair. "Jane, please fetch me that royal parchment." She waved in the direction of her writing table. Denise broke the seal and unfolded it. A summons. All right, but not to a giddy musicale. It was a summons to a wedding, her own. Her heart took a sickening lurch. Her intended was Richard, Duke of Gloucester, the king's youngest brother, her childhood companion. Queen Elizabeth always married relatives off to the cream of nobility, and Richard was the highest-ranking bachelor in the kingdom. Far from her idea of a husband, a brother, yes, a husband, never. A fastidious prude, he intended to wed his sweetheart, Anne Neville. Denise and Richard played together as children and renewed their friendship when she returned to court. They played tennis, chess, cards, but play ended at games. Just the thought of kissing him made her shudder. Now the Queen wanted them wed on Christmas Day. Seething with fury, she strode to the hearth and flung the parchment into the flames. They licked and charred it beyond recognition. She crawled into bed for a long, hard think. By the time she fell asleep, she'd already thought of several ways out. King Edward stood to bid his queen good eve. She left the dyers, and her bevy of maids followed her out of the great hall. Denise climbed the dyer's steps and approached her uncle with a curtsy. "Uncle Ned, I need speak with you." "Denise, my dear, come sit by me." His beefy hand wrapped hers in comforting warmth. "I hardly see you. What with all the battles and council meetings, you must let me get my revenge on the chessboard." She smiled at the memory of their last match. She captured Uncle Ned's own king, with no more than rook and pawn. "I would much enjoy that, uncle." She sat beside him and kissed his ruby coronation ring. He motioned a passing steward to bring Denise a cup of wine. "Are you happy at court, my dear? Or would you rather stay up Yorkshire way, where it's quiet at least?" "Oh, I felt especially misty today, the first anniversary of the Duchess's death. I miss Castle Howard so much." Ah, Castle Howard, where warmth and love surrounded her, embracing her childhood with rocking cradles, a lullaby every night, and the Duchess's soft breast to rest her head on. "I had my studies, gave alms to the poor, read to the urchins. They devoured King Arthur tales." Her tone lightened as she recalled the joy of bringing brief happiness to bleak lives. "I know how much the folk and the Duchess adored you." King Edward gazed into the distance. "In the years my brothers, sisters and I lived at Castle Howard, the Duchess was a mother to all of us." Denise nodded. Her eyes caught the blur of lights glinting off her goblet. "Duchess used to spend hours fussing over my hair, especially when the sun bleached it white. 'How pretty you are, like a little dove,' she said to me one day. Her pet name was Dove, from that day on. But her halcyon childhood met an abrupt end.